Can you
Can
hear
you hear
me?
me?
Yeah,
We did it.
we did it. Yay. Two
I'm
non-technology girls.
fuck a duck, right? Like, don't even. And I mean, it just the whole day of it all. This
I know. Oh
current
God.
Ides of March is already kicking my ass. In my
The what
God.
the what of March?
Ides of March, IDES. It's like
Yeah.
a Roman, the madness of March. But
Ah,
this particular astrological setup is
yes.
like, you know,
Yeah.
we make it through. I think we make it through anything. But of course, it started early for me because I have to be
Yes.
special and you want to have a kid.
So
Anyway,
yeah.
let's talk
Yeah, it is.
foraging.
Yeah.
All right. So, welcome, Miss Chanterelle Foggin,
Thank
who
you.
is the Foragers Plate.
Thank you so much for having me, the sacred door bitch.
You're the one who knows.
I was thinking about
Can't
that
even say
title. And I was thinking, like, mushrooms are almost like the sacred door bitch as well, aren't they? Like,
is it right? So, shall we just go there straight off the bat? I was going
why
to start
not?
with foraging. How did you get in
Well,
there?
it's
Your
all
favorite
part of
plant?
it.
Let's do shrooms, baby. Let's just go straight up. So,
Well, yeah, why not?
why not indeed?
So yeah, I mean, my fascination started with mushrooms probably around about 8, 9 years ago now. And I was super lucky to be in a state of grace where my life was going through a lot of changes, and I was really held in a sacred space in a women's circle that was really beautiful at that time. And a lot of the elder sort of women, or as I saw them as wise or elder women, in that group were sort of quite pro about maybe experimenting with mushrooms and seeing what that could offer me in terms of my healing from childhood trauma and the things that I was processing that I couldn't seem to get out of me through years of cognitive behavioral therapy and going and seeing everybody that you can, every healer,
Yeah,
everything like
yeah.
that. And so I was really lucky to have this beautiful relationship where I went out with these women and sort of got to know what I was looking for and how to identify these mushrooms and how to use them for my own healing. And that sparked something inside of me. It was like almost like the little mycelial fibers started to grow, and I became absolutely just totally enamored and fascinated with all mushrooms. And then being a sort of, a cook person like yourself, I'm like, what can I do to eat these wild foods? How can I learn about which mushrooms I can, use in a gourmet way? And so it kind of spread out from the healing into the gourmet edible side, and then a lot of looking for edible mushrooms is knowing about what forest you're in and what trees are there and what trees have the associations with the mushrooms that you're looking for. So I started to get more and more interested and involved with plants as well through that, because it was what the mushrooms asked me to do. It was the next step. And mushrooms are there, they aren't a plant, they aren't an animal, they are their own
Yeah,
kingdom of organisms.
absolutely.
And I mean, yeah, they have more in common with shellfish than you might imagine, and more in common
Really?
with giraffes than than us
Oh,
in
I never thought of
particular.
it like that.
Yeah, so
Wow.
they're a strange and unusual creature, and I suppose that's where a lot of the fascination came from too. And then yeah, so we have a wonderful mushroom season in Australia, which starts sort of in beginning of summer and goes through to our autumn, if you will, because I know in our Bunjalung country we don't have a strong autumn, but when you get attuned to the seasons, you really do notice the changes. And so when that season ended, there was, I wanted to still forage because that connection it brought me and the healing, I was, wanting that. And so I started to learn more about edible weeds, about introduced naturalized species that have, been spread by birds and whatnot, about bush tucker and what else could I be connected to the land with when I couldn't forage for mushrooms as well.
Yeah. Wow. Because I'm always worried, like, I'll pick the wrong one. Or even with a weed, like, what the fuck am I going to eat and vomit? I'm sort of, I've never met definitive. And so I'm so excited that you're coming here to CasaVeras,
Yes,
people.
yes. So we're doing.
So, yes, yes. Well, it's because as I said, I've got no fucking, I mean, I've got no idea whatsoever what to eat. And not only do you pick and eat, but the preparations, the way you use, and like, I mean, the soda, all that stuff, like
Thank
you could
you.
go to Chanterelle, Woolies, not the Woolly Woolies.
Yeah, and it's something really awesome about sort of usurping that chain of, breaking that cycle of that you can only get food from places like Woolies or whatever. That's another really cool
Yeah.
thing about it. But super excited to be coming down in Myocum to your place on the 30th of March. We're doing a forage event. So, and it's geared towards people starting off in their foraging journey like yourself. So we'll cover a lot about, knowing about the toxic plants that are commonly around, and how to ID those, and getting to know species by species. So starting with simple things like a couple of edible weeds that you've seen, you've been taught by someone else, and it's really kind of a person to person learning, and that's why it's great to get a small group together, and we'll go for a walk around and we'll actually handle plants and really actually start connecting with them, and that's the way to go. And it's the same with the mushrooms, but it's like the thing is, there's a lot of what we call mycophobia in Australia, where we've been grown up where it's like, don't touch that, um,
Yeah.
stay away, and all of this sort of thing. And it's interesting for parents and people to know that there isn't a mushroom or a fungus that you can touch in Australia that can harm you. You have to
Huh?
eat and digest even the most toxic, if we're talking about a death cap mushroom, you have to ingest that for it to have any of its effects upon you. So children touching, necessarily if they've touched a mushroom or picked one up or handled it, there's no need for cause for concern in that instance. Of course, we need to be cautious with children and mushrooms and all of that sort of thing. But it's just reassuring for people to know that. But yes,
I had no
again,
idea.
yeah. So again, like, people have there's a few sort of rhymes that go around, like old wives' tales, like, white gills equal hospital bills and things like that. And
Oh, wow.
they're not actually necessarily true. Some of the
Oh,
best edible mushrooms have white gills. I've got a little one. He's looking a little bit sad here right now, but this is a little
all right.
Oudsmanzilla exenulata that I found yesterday. It's a white-gilled mushroom, and it's a beautiful edible mushroom. I've eaten this one quite a few times. So it's there's sort of these old wives' tales, and this inbuilt fear of mushrooms that people have, when in fact, it's plants are actually more, can be more dangerous. I mean, there's several plants in our area, like the stinging tree, that you only have to brush up against, and you're in all sorts of pain for quite some, can be weeks to months even. There's no
See, I
mushroom
hope we
that
don't
can
have
do
any of
that.
those here.
I
I
didn't
mean,
see
let me
any,
know,
but
right?
they're
Oh,
super
good.
common. That's one of the plants. We'll go through the common plants to avoid and to look out for when you're out foraging, when we have the workshop as well. And that's sort of, we also cover the foraging sort of ethics side, how to do that in a sustainable way. Leaving some for the birds and the bees, and other foragers. And if you choose to, maybe sharing on food maps, using apps that have food maps. We have a local one called Youth Forage app that people add, roadside trees and things like that, that they're happy to share fruit from, or that they've found and they're like, wow, there's an abundance of elderberry here. I'm never going to be able to have all this, might as well share the
Yeah.
location with other people. So yeah,
Love that.
it builds community, and that's the idea of having a group of people face to face as well, is that we'll get to know each other in a special way, and we'll share some food at the end and things that I've made. And I always sort of say to people that the foragers work is a lot about preserving and keeping the harvest for later use in the year. So it's trying to find inventive ways to, pickle and jams and do preserves and things like that, sodas and ferments and stuff, so that, you can keep enjoying the spoils throughout the year.
I'm fascinated. It's like, first of all, I mean, when I met you at one of Sharon's tea parties, get on those
Yes.
girls and boys.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I saw your Insta, and I'll put it all up on the screen, and just this is all I, got this week. And it was like a whole shopping list. And
Yeah.
the stuff had so much nutritious value, and it was so attractive. Like, there's no way it was like, sometimes when people talk forage or things like that, you kind of conjure up this troll under the bridge, and you sort of like,
Yeah. No, I
right?
definitely think,
It's
yeah,
not gourmet,
totally.
baby,
There's
right?
there's
And
part of me that actually loves being that troll as well. But I get it. It's sort of like, there is that kind of feeling of like, oh, you're picking up rotten apples under a tree, and you're maybe getting subpar food because you're not able to afford to get the premium items. But and they say this with the mushroom hunter, it's like you're sort of a fool to the poor and a fool to the rich. It's sort of always been that way. It's kind of probably that archetype in a way, I suppose, that you're playing into. And I do call myself a seaweed hag. When I'm down at the beach collecting big piles of seaweed and carrying it around, and I feel like I do look kind of trollish and disheveled, and I kind of like that people are scared of me in that way. There is a witchiness to
legend.
there is a witchiness to this work. It's
I love that.
ancestral work, and it really brings you into that power of the of being a human, but also power of the woman, because our eyes are just like attuned to do this work, that we're there
Yeah.
for seeing these colors, for noticing these patterns, and it's all about pattern recognition. Because when you were a child, you didn't know a tomato was an edible tomato until you were told it was a tomato, it was a tomato, it was a tomato, over and over and over again. And so this is the idea about, yeah, if we gather people together and we share this information person to person, which is the way it's always been shared. If we go back into our own hunter-gatherer Anglo-Saxon ancestry, but also honoring, First Nations people and the way that they shared information through storytelling and whatnot, that's gathering a group of people together and actually sharing the stories and sharing the information from person to person has a special power to it as well.
Yeah, transmission, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
I dig the internet, but person to person transmission it's organic. It's the thing that AI can never do.
Yeah,
You
hopefully
know?
that will never be taken from us. And yeah, and I think too, for a beginner forager, it's like taking that leap from seeing someone doing it and being like, oh, I think I saw that on when I drove down the road, down that little side road. I think I saw an elderberry tree or a lemon myrtle, and then having the guts to stop and get out and actually do it. Like, after coming to a workshop, you'll be more empowered to actually be, like recognizing these plants in your own environment. And so yeah, it's a good, it's a gateway for you to get into
Yeah.
it yourself. It's come along, and it's great to just, it's beautiful. We have people come who are more experienced foragers just to be with like-minded people as well, and and to eat some beautiful wild foods, and yeah,
Yeah.
have a chat and a natter and see different place to forage, and what can they, what can they learn.
So
And
you
I
have
was just,
yeah,
sorry, you
like,
go, you go.
like oh, sorry. I'm thinking, do you have a toolkit? Because I'm thinking of myself driving down the road. Oh, there's my lemon myrtle and crack a tree bit. Like, is there special tools or a special way
Oh,
to
well,
do it?
look,
Like, that's part of
yeah, I think I do. And like I've got on my website, I've actually got a little bit about putting together a foraging kit for the car and whatnot, but it's all the normal items. I mean, the only thing that you probably see me out with that's unusual is I always have at least one or two knives on me, and you've seen this. So
Oh, go hello.
having a little mushroom knife. So this little mushroom
How
one,
cute is that?
yeah, so this one's got a little brush on it for getting the dirt out
Oh,
of your mushrooms, and then
OMG.
your actual little knife for cutting.
Oh,
And so, yeah, I find myself always having at least a couple of knives in the car, a little,
I'll be wearing that as a fashion accessory. I don't give a fuck
oh,
about cutting anything. It's so
yeah,
cool.
no, but I like
Can we get
actually,
that on your site?
do you know what I actually end up doing? I actually end up cutting things in the kitchen. Because I just love this knife so much. But I
Sure.
lost one. I it's
Oh,
also a foragers thing, is like the knives kind of come and go, and the foraging equipment kind of comes and goes. The amount of time I've been out foraging and then I've found scissors, or I've found a trowel, or something that somebody else has left behind in the excitement of gathering their bounty. And it happens to me quite often with my knives. I find an awesome mushroom, I'm super excited, and I just put it down and I walk off. And so then someone else gets that. And yeah, that's nice. And sometimes I end up finding, so I have found one knife before, but that one's long gone as well. But yeah, I mean, always having a couple of, bags in the car. I mean, we all do these days. I mean, if you want to be an extra person, having a long handled snippers is always good for reaching things. And a pair of gloves, I always say too, because you just never know what you want to, what's going to appear when you're about. You never know if you're going to come across a prickly pear that you want to take some paddles and some fruit from, or anything. So yeah, being prepared
right.
is important. But literally, foraging happens everywhere, anytime. And there's many times where I haven't been prepared, and it's one of those ones you
Great.
just end up using whatever's on hand and getting through, getting by.
Okay, so when we come on the March one, March 30th,
Yes.
what do we bring?
I'd say for everybody to bring along, wear enclosed shoes, because we'll just walk around the property, a hat, maybe bring, if you want to collect a couple of things, a basket or a bag. There'll be opportunity for us to snip some little edible weeds. We'll probably make something back together when we end up coming back for the end of the walk, and our little morning tea. We'll do a demo of making something with some of the things we've collected. But just bring your good selves, and yeah, and just that enthusiasm to learn. And I find that is a no-brainer for the people who end up turning up and joining us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It becomes a bit instinctual. That's what I've noticed, is like once you cross that threshold of saying, I can do this. This is
yeah,
like you sort of like a mind meld, if you will, with the flora and fauna.
that's it.
A whole world opens up. It's like a completely different expression or dynamic of relationship. I
Totally.
remember when I was younger, like I went to my grandparents and they had a garden. And I looked at mum and said, but there's a supermarket. Why do they do this? Right. And of course, now in my, wisdom of age, I'm like, fuck. But that was how, as a child, I was being conditioned,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. Like,
we
luckily, I
are.
got to see them doing that, the homemade, except and got to taste it and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like life without AI. There was that before sometimes.
And
You know what I
I
mean?
think I think there's a couple of things. It's like, I weirdly, we can thank kind of like COVID times, because obviously,
Mm.
like, there was that resurgence for people to get back into their gardens. And also people were wondering, like, oh, what will happen if I can't get food from the supermarket and I can't get seedlings from Bunnings? Where would I be able to obtain food from? What things around me would be useful and edible? What resources do I have? And so yeah, I got this very definite feeling from my community at that time that they were going to keep me alive for the apocalypse. But you know
Yeah, I will
um
be. You're a national treasure. What are you talking about? Oh my God.
And so that's a weird thing that we sort of can thank COVID that has, like, there'll be so many more children and generations of people who will have had that chance to be in a garden and do that stuff that may not have happened in busy parents' lives and whatnot. So that's kind of weird. But I also really connect with, the grandparent story, because like when
Mm.
I ask people, and one of the things I love to hear about from people is like your foraging origin story. When did you start
Yeah,
foraging? And most people actually go back to when they were a child, and then and often it's an elder grandmother that was the person, and that's like really
yeah,
gets me in the heart, because I feel like that's just we're still in our bodies doing what we're meant to do when that's happened. And again, that transmission, like you said before. But yeah, also, a lot of people say, oh yeah, I used to go and pick these flowers and do this and that, and I used to make these little potions, or I used to, all of this sort of stuff. And it getting back towards, like, creating little potions in the kitchen with things you've collected and stuff. It connects you with that childhood joy that you had. And I find that
yeah.
most people have that story, and they may have forgotten a little bit about it. Um, but yeah, getting back into the foraging, yeah, it's such a great for your mental health thing to do. Like, not are you only being active, connecting with nature outside, but you're also connecting with a very deep part of yourself. And yeah,
Yeah,
like we all know, like connections, like the opposite of depression. And that's what it in this whole journey of, years and years of foraging, it's helped me. And when I feel down and when I don't know what to do in my life, I go, and I know I can go out and forage and find things and taste a little midgeonberry or something, and it's just like, that's what it's about for me. That's what life's about. And so I
love
really,
it.
yeah, want to be able to connect to other people, and that, because it's a disconnected life that a lot of people do lead these days.
No, right? It's like we're spoiled. When I say we, I'm doing the collective we, but here we're spoiled. And I realize that when I go into different places and
Mm,
things that are a bit built up, and I also understand that life gets busy and you have a lot of intentions and you have a lot, I'm gonna, and suddenly you don't. So that whole COVID thing was finally people had some time. They weren't
yeah,
chasing the mortgage payment, so to speak. Hopefully, the
yeah,
government was giving
exactly.
it to them.
The other thing is
Oops.
too is that, like, there's a real this is a interesting controversial sort of issue in terms of foraging, is that there is a real wall for a lot of people to access land. So, there's a lot of people who privately hold land, and there's a lot of people who will never have the chance in their life to access space and land. And to me, it's a human right. And in other countries, there's a right to roam, where, people can access parts of hedgerows and parts of private property, so that you can have this access to this type to do foraging and to wander and to fulfill this type of human need. And,
Do
like,
they get permission or you just wake up and they're out your door? Like, how does it
well,
work?
certain properties have, like, walkway parts on them, that it's like the
Right.
rail trails. They've gone and said,
Right.
right, this is public land. You own this, but this part people can walk through. And it's just quite
Mm.
often the same in New Zealand as well. There's no right to roam in New Zealand, but there's a lot of public access to private property through, paddocks and whatnot. And
Right.
and even the things they've done with the rail trail, for example, it's now allowed people access to land. And I'm a big I support that. I got chased out of a paddock last week.
Stop it.
No, the
Really? With a
true
pitchfork?
story. I was lucky. I was only there for gathering some lotus flowers out of a dam, but two very angry men, came up on me, yelling at me and motioning me out of the paddock like I'm a cow. Um, and very, very upset that I was picking a flower from their dam, and it's like, but I don't have anywhere else to do that. And I understand that there's implications for property owners, like, public liability and whatnot. And it's a complicated issue. Um, but there's a certain part of a forager that's kind of a cheekiness about it as well. So we call that
Yeah.
like the unrepentant forager. You see something through a fence and you'll just pop in and out, and
Could be the name of your book,
so
The
yeah.
Unrepentant Forager.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
there's a group on Facebook, Unrepentant Foraging Squad.
Oh,
So
really?
it's
Is
got
that
a
your group? 'Cause it's got
no,
a really big.
it's an American group. Like in
Okay.
other countries as well. Like we do have an emerging foraging community and scene in Australia, and through as particularly being pushed through by fine dining and modern Australian cuisine, seeking for new flavors and interesting foods to include, and that brings tastes of wild things to people when they go to restaurants, and then they want to create things or learn more about that as well. And we have quite a few really well-known Indigenous chefs, bringing forward bush foods and bush tucker into a more spotlighted place these days. So it's people know about it a lot more than they used to, I think, as well.
Yeah, it's getting more of uh the recognition as an art form rather than, the troll under the bridge.
Yeah. But in other countries, there's like much stronger scenes around, particularly around mushroom
Yeah.
foraging. If you go to Europe or any Eastern European countries, it's just a given that you go out, and forage mushrooms. That's just, normal. And in America, it's very much like that as well. And so, yeah, but we do have, in Australia as well, probably further south in Victoria, Canberra, South Australia, there is a more established mushroom foraging scene, being that they have, a more
Weather.
dominant, yeah, the weather, but it's also driven by the immigrants, like Italian and
Mm.
mostly Italian and like Eastern European immigrant culture that's more dominant down there. They are the ones that have taught their children to go to the pine forest to hunt for mushrooms like they did back home. And
Mm.
they're the ones teaching their children and their children, and sharing, how to pickle saffron milk caps and whatnot, and share them with their family. And so that comes back to like brings me to like one of the biggest foraging ethics is sort of like there's no pick shaming around like other people. You might see someone foraging sometime and think, hey, what are you doing? Why are you taking that leaf or that flower from that tree? Or why have you got a basket full of mushrooms, or a container full of pippies or something like that? And we don't know that may be part of their generational sharing in their family and their ancestry. They may be feeding
Yeah.
whole families. So yeah, that's sort of one of the things we kind of talk about around the ethics around foraging, is not judging other people for what they may be foraging, why they may be foraging. You don't know. It could be a free food that you see as rubbish, but to them it could be the most prized and looked forward to food of the whole year.
I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? We're
Yeah.
so chocolate three veg, really. We the colonialism convicts, it was pretty much we came cut and pasted from England and what
Mm.
was, considered there. And this is a whole different ball game, isn't it? I mean, I'm so pathetic. I'm like bug freak. What I mean is you get in amongst it. You're saying wear gloves. Like, have you ever been bitten by shit? And you know what I mean? Like, is
Do
that
you- I'm absolutely actually the same as you, V. Like I'm actually a
real?
little bit scared of bugs and stuff. Like I'm quite a
Oh my God,
girl.
I
I'm a
can't believe
girly
it. You're so
girl. I'm a
innocent.
girly girl. I'm a girly girl.
Well, you look
And
pretty. So yeah, there you go.
so yeah, but do you know what? Everything out there's more scared of you than you're of it. I've obviously, people there's, we in Australia, need to be snake aware and whatnot. But I don't. I've been, like you said, I'm pretty out there. Like I'm normally in the bush, um,
Yeah.
and I don't come across. many snakes at all. Not many snakes at all. And
You're right.
I personally have like a more of a bug and creepy crawly thing. Like I just don't want them on me. But again, like I've adjusted to it, and it's good because like I used to be scared of leeches, even though they don't actually hurt
Oh,
you. I just the creepy
no, no,
crawly
nah, I'm
factor.
there with you. Nah, it's the yeah, nah.
I've gotten over
No.
that from exposure to leeches. Basically, exposure therapy has gotten me over
Right.
that. So yeah, but I do get it. But mostly everything just wants to get away from you.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. Don't
Good to
stay in
know.
one spot too long. Just keep moving is also one
Stop
of
it.
my
I'll be doing a
theories. Is
pirouette.
just like just keep going, just keep moving, and nothing can
So
really attach
is
to
that
you.
the Foragers boogie?
Yeah, that is. A little up here, pick something there, going down, down, down there. Yep. Down, down,
Love it.
down to Mushroom Town.
You patent that. You what do you call it? You trademark that, the Foragers funk. I don't know. You know I love alliteracy. Is it
Shit.
alliteration? Yeah.
Alliteration. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we can get on your website and find all
Yep.
this stuff. I'm going to put links to this.
Yeah.
Do you have
So
like an ongoing thing, where people can join and find stuff monthly or something? Like, how
well,
can they
we
become
have a
part of the
few.
world?
There's a couple of ways people can get engaged online. So hopefully, I'll be doing some more regular workshops. This one I'm doing. It's actually been long awaited. I've been a sort of on a bit of a hiatus while I was sort of up in the mountains for a while. But we have a group called Forage and Grow New South Wales, and it's a really awesome community group, and there's a lot of other people who share workshops for all around New South Wales, not just in the Northern Rivers part, but there's interesting people doing things all over the place. So we have people popping their things on there. Well, the other thing is that comes sort of through being part of a group like that is that you know people are always putting up things they're finding, and so you're becoming more aware of what's in season, what might be around you.
Educational.
Yeah, so even just if you're a sort of a silent participant in the page, it's really quite useful in terms of getting to see what people are saying, what people are finding, and how they're IDing it, and discussions and that sort of thing. If you're really interested, and so there's quite a bit of mushroom ID on the group as well as plants. So we're an interesting group in that we mesh the two together. A lot of our groups kind of keep the two things separate, but we're just like, give it to us all. We love them. We love it.
Yeah, if it's growing, I want it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and then obviously I have my Foragers Plate Instagram, and I try to make it as educational as possible, offer people a little bit of value with learning with my
Oh,
stories
it's
and whatnot,
fantastic.
stuff like
It's
that.
a
So,
great page.
yeah. And then I have my blog on
Really.
my website. There's quite a few there. There's, some information about, getting interested in starting your foraging journey, about foraging kit you can put together. There's some recipes and some ideas for things like edible weeds uses, like a pumpkin and edible weed bake that's really nice. It can do it vegan with like toasted pumpkin nuts on top and smoked paprika, or with cheese. Is really good. It was actually one of my mum's recipes because my mum was a forager
Oh,
too. So yeah, I was
in the
lucky to
blood.
grow up. Yeah, I was lucky to grow up in New Zealand. Quite connected to the land and to the ocean as well. So yeah, so there's a bit of resource on my website as well, but there's also some other really amazing foragers around Australia, and yeah, you can find out about them on the internet. There's Diego Benito, who's running mushroom walks down near Sydney this year, and we've also got Mindy Woods, who's doing bush foods dinners out at Conscious Ground. There's Auntie Delta K, who does bush food tours at the Byron Lighthouse and Bangalore, Broken Head as well. There's some really stellar people that you can get involved with, and it's not just me out here doing workshops. There's also one of my
Yeah,
mushroom mentors, Martin Martini. He does Belly of the World mushrooms. He's doing
that's such a
walks
cool
every
name,
weekend.
Martin
Yeah.
Martini.
Yeah, so
right?
he's a bit of a star in the mushroom world, and he's been one of my reluctant mentors over the last sort of 5 6 years. And he's famous for his saying that love is more dangerous than mushrooms. So,
He's a man after my own heart. How So his
yeah,
mushroom tour is edible, and I
yeah.
always say the wrong word, psilocybin,
Um,
psilocybin.
so someone does a mushroom tour, generally they focus on you know, scientifically getting people acquainted with a mushroom, its anatomy, and just finding what's out there. If there happen to be edible mushrooms, then you'll get some information and lessons on that. But otherwise, yeah, it's all of learning, because it all accumulates towards your learning for finding the edible ones when you're learning about the non-edibles, the poisonous, toxics, that sort of thing. So the psilocybin mushrooms, they tend to grow in different environments mostly than a forest. So you're more talking
Oh,
about where you are able to have that mixture of cattle or horses or some type of large
animals.
animals in a paddock, and that's where you'll find the psilocybin containing mushrooms. So um
That's a good tip.
yeah, so they tend to be two different places. And in Australia currently, as you know, they're still illegal and to collect any from the wild. So you can go and take a photograph of the mushroom in the ground, and in its natural environment. That's legal. That's fine if you're just wanting to study them and get to know what they look like and whatever. But as soon as that's plucked from the ground, you're then carrying a illegal substance, and it's still at like there's been a little bit of a change in Australia around the scheduling, but it's still scheduled as a Schedule 9 drug. But what's happened that changed is that the TGA made it so in a therapeutic setting, a particular therapist can apply for it to change from Schedule 9 down to Schedule 8 so that they can then administer in a therapeutic setting to a patient. And it's done case by case. So there are people
Wow.
doing psilocybin therapy in Australia right now with accredited therapists. But it's not that they changed the whole scheduling, that it's less illegal or anything like that. It's still
Just a
considered as,
little loophole.
yeah, it's a little loophole, but it's a start. And also but yeah, it's still in the same category as the drugs like heroin and whatever. So we have a long way to go to catch up to, America and some of the places in Europe and whatnot. But we are,
It's like what we want to adapt. You know what I mean? From America, we don't want their accent. We don't want their politics. No
yeah.
offense. We just want their shroom
Mm.
knowledge system and, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Legislate. At the beginning of the century, you could go to David Jones and get heroin in a hypodermic needle because you had a headache
Yeah.
over the counter in a nice box, or you
Oh,
could have
how lovely.
cocaine in your cough medicine.
Yeah. Or
It's
in your, yeah.
really like, wow. And to think that though then you could have it, just go to David Jones and get it, right?
Mm.
Or now if you tried anything like that, you'd be in jail. It's
Well, yeah. And I
so
mean, it's crazy that, there's so much research that's proving that psilocybin um, is, able to treat treatment resistant depression, post traumatic stress disorder, sorry, you know, um, childhood traumas, things like that. Um, and hopefully we'll just be slow. And the change that happened with the loophole, it actually is a beginning. It doesn't seem like much, but we're
yeah.
very conservative, and that actually is a big deal. So there are people accessing the psilocybin therapy with accredited therapists. At this stage, as I understand it, it's very expensive. We're talking like $10,000, and it's a it's, you know, a 6-month
Oh,
treatment
indeed.
sort of plan. So it's not very
Wow.
accessible. It's not, it's, they haven't made it accessible for people. And of course,
Not
you
on
know,
Medicare yet.
no, no. So yeah, long way to go there, but it's, you know, it's the start of something. So fingers crossed we'll be able
You're
to
so
have
knowledgeable.
more people to access the medicine, because, you know, it really does help a lot of people. You know, it helps people end using hard drugs and people with severe alcoholism. You know, there's just so many,
Indeed.
there's so many things that it can be useful for. um and yeah.
And fun too. Oops, didn't come from me.
Yeah, well.
Um, but that's pretty amazing. Now I can tell you now, our property doesn't have any cows on it. So we won't be running into
Yes.
any psilocybin, psychopsilocybin. Came and sort of check the property out, like, what's it like? What have we got here?
Yeah.
After like half an hour or something, she came to the door and she had like a list. This, oh, well, you got this.
Oh,
And that was like just
yeah.
in a school meet. I'm like, really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, like the whole thing through new eyes, the whole
Yes.
thing through. I mean, it's exciting. I feel like a girl again.
Yeah, it is. It's like we'll be frolicking through the fields, skipping, holding hands with our baskets.
Flower crowns optional. Love it. Love it. So I'm going to put all this stuff in the show notes. And also, I do a video with this. So I
Yep.
put a lot of the stuff on the videos.
Great. Yeah.
Um, if anything else, they can get onto your website and just get direct with you. Because
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
that,
Send me a message. Send me your mushroom photos that you want ID'd. If you've got mushrooms coming up on your property and you're like,
wow.
what is this? A lot of people send me. I don't really get sick of it because I like to see what's out there as well. And then maybe I can help
Sure.
you to ID it. It might be something interesting, might be something edible that
So
I want to
now
come and
I've
get.
heard there's a way to do it, more to the point. Um, I know there's a way to do it. You're supposed to photograph the gills, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you
So
can't just show
if
them the
you,
picture.
was it like this little mushroom here? So if he was in the ground, we'd need to see the underside and we need to see inside the mushroom. So the photo needs to be a cross section inside of the mushroom so that we can see the gills, the stipe or the stem, the way it attaches to the gills, and the cap as well. So there's a lot of things that go into IDing a mushroom. It's not one rule for anything. It's more like a flow chart, like where you start, like where did it grow? Did it grow on wood? Was it growing in the ground? Was it growing in a mulch pile? This starts to tell you things, gives you clues as to what type of mushroom it would be. And then it's a flow chart on from there where you're ticking off and checking things, but there's not one rule, which people are often
Right.
disappointed about, because they want something definitive and they want it to be, but
Yeah.
it's about
Oh,
getting to know and building relationships with the mushrooms. It's seeing that particular mushroom, getting to know its scientific name, its commons names, where you find it, what type of environment it grows in, you know, actually going and picking that mushroom, smelling it, really actually getting familiar with the anatomy of the mushroom, knowing its poisonous or toxic lookalikes that you maybe could confuse it with, and just
yeah.
starting with one thing, one mushroom or one plant is really actually a great way to do it. It sounds super simplified, but from there things will spark off because you'll be learning more about this and then that,
Right.
and you'll be like, oh, hang on, that's that one, that da, 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 da. So
Your
yeah,
confidence
it's
grows too, because you're okay about that particular plant. I'm happy with that. I'm safe with that.
yeah.
I think that really the biggest fear is I'm going to fucking poison myself or someone else. And I know it's ridiculous, but that is
Well, it's
so
it's not
so fucked in
ridiculous.
the head.
No,
No, but
it's,
think
I
about
mean,
it. My
yeah,
environment, I can't, my environment's toxic. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like the
This
thought
is,
of
yeah,
that.
this is part of that conditioning you're talking about, and it's like,
Yes.
and it is about changing people's mindset from seeing the environment as inherently dangerous to inherently supportive and nourishing. Like it's an,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like that old witch's tale, that wise woman's tale. It's like what grows near you is literally what your body needs. There's probably dandelions growing in your backyard. There's probably plantain. There's probably, farmers' friends. They're really dense, nutrient-rich foods, superfoods that are growing like right next to you. And they have the nutrients that your body is actually screaming out for. So it's on so many levels, it ticks all the boxes. Um,
Yeah.
and when you're eating wild foods, you're getting nutrients that you just don't get from that, very small
You
list of
are what you
things. Yeah. So you're getting all of these really strange, unusual antioxidants. I mean, all these really, a lot of the wild foods are super high in vitamin C, super high, higher than the foods we get in the supermarket. Like on the weekend, I found the lemon aspen. It's a bush food, and it has a fruit that's quite fleshy, and it's like a lemon, a perfumed lemon. It has an aromatic fragrance to the lemonness of it, and they have a higher antioxidant capacity than blueberries. They also high in zinc,
are.
which is
Wow.
like, one of those things that
Think over
we
oysters.
and zinc's hard to get from the environment these days as well, in terms of soil depletion.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, what wild foods may be able to offer you.
Excited. I'm so excited. So this is March the 30th.
Yes,
I'm going to
in the
put the
morning. Yep, we could
do you
be
have
meeting in the
do you
morning.
have to like do you have to be a member of your Facebook group?
No, not at all. If you
Okay.
you go to the link on my website, it'll take you directly to the Humanitics ticketing sale and just purchase a ticket there. You don't need to come with anyone else. You'll meet everyone, and it's nice because you'll sort of bond a lot with people.
Yeah. You
If you
won't
do just
hide.
yeah, you won't feel not included or whatever if you decide to come on your own.
Yeah.
So yeah, there'll be a lovely group of people, I'm sure, including
I'm
us.
so excited. Yeah. Oh, well, babes. I mean, welcome, welcome.
Thank
Get a
you
tote.
again, and thank you again for having us there and
Oh,
allowing
shit,
us
yeah.
onto your property, and allowing people access that might not have places to wander, like what we talked about before. Like, that's a gracious thing as a landowner, and I do
Well,
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
ideally, I'd like to make this a cemetery. I shit you not. We've got rainforest that is like a heritage listed stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's got
yeah, it's a
bare
beautiful
tree.
spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I'd love to be able to clear it enough that people can walk around and dedicate
Mm,
a plant to their ashes of their loved one. And they can
yeah.
always and maybe I'd love to do those mushroom coffins. I've
Oh
been
yes,
research
the
like
mycelium
what,
coffins. Yeah,
right?
the
And
pods.
for the, pod me out. And for myself, um, I have this thing called mucilium, MU cilium, and I'm telling you, I have felt this shroom. I've felt its flesh. I've felt there's a nourishment to it. There's an educational aspect to it. And I'm doing my very fucking best to manifest that here somewhere on the property. So if you
Yes.
end up finding it, I don't know what I'll do. I'll blast off. Sure. When you get like a confirmation, like something actually happens or it's materialized in front of
Yes,
you, and it's like,
I
DG,
can't believe
wow.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
So
you've actually got a black bean tree on your property, which is like they're protected. If you've got a black bean, that's like it could never be taken down. They're like
okay,
sacred,
well,
sacred
that's where
tree.
I'll be buried.
Yeah, I'll show you.
As we develop or we clear a little bit more paths in there, we can go into the rainforest more because there's
Yes.
definite trees with mushrooms on them. There's
Yeah.
trees with mushrooms inside them.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
so, like, wow. And like, again, they're not all going to be, psilocybin, they might not all be edible. But,
Psilocybin vibin.
all right.
Vibin
Oh, I like that.
Cybin. Vibin
Bring it,
Cybin.
bitch. I think that's another name of a book or a blog or something. But yeah, just it's like a whole new world. I'm pretty excited about it, as you can see.
Good.
Well,
I'm
because
glad
I'm
you are.
I make raw food. I don't cook.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that I could go and do plant to plate. That I don't have to, plant a lettuce. Come and get a lettuce. It's like, that's great. All right. That's fabulous. But to actually be able to find something on the land, bring it into the kitchen, and make something tasty and
Yes.
nutrient dense. I mean, dreams come true.
Yeah, it is. It is it's a full circle. You're like, yeah, this
Right?
feels right. This feels really right.
Do you know what? We'll have to do a lunch day.
Yeah. Do
Not
a raw food
like,
one as well.
yeah, but like raw forage.
Yes, that's a
Do you
good
know what I
idea.
mean?
Yeah.
Right? And we could do
Yeah.
what do you call it? They could either forage with themselves, or they just come to the luncheon, and it's like, we'll have it. I don't know. You could have it like a cave. You come into, no, hang on. It's in my, I can't exactly throw a cave together in the studio, but you know what I
Oh, it's
mean?
a
It would
pretty
be like,
lovely spot. It's a pretty nice spot. I don't think you really need to do much to it. It's really, really
just put a
nice.
tent out and fucking sit under that, bitches.
Mm.
Anyway, that could be really fun, doing
Yes.
pop-ups in the sense of like, this is what was on the land today. It's not like you can make a menu. It's like,
Yeah.
this is what it is. This is
Yes.
what we
Yeah.
plan to do with it. I think it's
Yeah.
so exciting.
And that's
And
why I sort
really,
of leave the
so well, I
menu
was
open.
saying it's really vegetarian, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
You know,
I just focus on the plants and just, let them do the talking, and we'll have some mushrooms. There'll be some wild mushroom something or other, but I let it sort of, like what you said, I let it kind of be, because I'll see what's about and what I'm able to forage up until that point. So it's all formulating in my brain as it comes together,
percolating. How
percolating.
delicious. I mean, your knowledge bank just has to be recorded. It has to be put somewhere. So I hope that Ra Media can expand enough to at least put some kind of, Foggin's Foragers tome.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, book, I'm still working on my book, but it's slowed down a lot because I'm just doing some cooking work as well. So yeah, juggling
That
a
kind of
few
video
plates in the
thing.
air, but what's that?
But maybe that video medium, that medium of, actual visual, having
Mm,
someone come and film you as you do the thing, that could end up being your legacy more so than a written tome.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah.
that more interactive sort of David Attenborough stuff.
I don't know if I've got the voice
You're a
for it.
bit fair that
Definitely
yourself.
don't have the laugh. I just did.
All right. Oh, I gave up on that long ago. Honestly, editing these videos, I learnt to love myself.
Yeah. I'm so
Oh my God.
yeah, I can't actually be social for too long. I'm like, I am for a little
I'm
bit,
getting
and then I'm just like, I want to be by myself. I don't
no,
want to
I'm
be
getting
around
that way.
anyone.
Do you think that's age, or do you think that's the age of Aquarius? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think that's where we're going, that
No,
individualization?
I don't think that's where we're going. I think that's personal for me. I don't know if it's age, but just wisdom for sure,
Yeah.
of like learning
Oh,
to
no,
be
I'm
like
feeling it.
learning
I'm
to be
feeling it.
like more like just like I'm just happy with my own company, which I never used to be. I always used to struggle
You're right.
being alone.
Isn't that it?
I used to, before all this, before mushrooms, I couldn't sit with myself at all. I couldn't, I just would needed constant distraction from myself. And I think
You're
that's
right.
one big thing that my psilocybin journeys have helped me with, is being more okay with sitting with me, with whatever is me, like, and just being like, I actually like myself.
How dare you?
I
Right, though?
just like to
Appreciate
be
life with.
in my company because I'd like to do what I'd like. And you know what, also, though, my mum was very much like that. And I always used to ask her, when am I going to be more like you, mum? Like, when am I going to be okay with just being on my own and stuff, and she used to say, like, it's going to happen, like, it's going to happen. And I used to think there's no way with my personality and whatnot that I'll ever feel like that. And now, since she's died, like it's become way more prevalent for me that I'm like, no, I need to honor that I need time alone, and that I've
Yeah.
spent enough time talking to other people or giving them my energy. Now I just want to be doing whatever I like and whatever makes me happy without any consideration for anyone else. Maybe it is a bit old, getting old and selfish.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's part of the evolution. I think that it's like there's so much shit on screens and there's so much out there. It's like anyone who has any kind of consciousness experience wants to revisit, and you can't
Mm,
do it out there. It has to go within. And
yes.
I like, if I'm doing my psilocybin, psychosilibins, whatever the fuck, I like silence. And when I say silence, I mean I often have solfeggio on, the solfeggio frequencies,
Yes.
and I have a on, but I like that inner journey. I'm not interested in a rave. You know what
Mm,
I mean? I'm
mm,
not interested in like spreading the news in that moment. I'm interested in
yeah.
having my experience and then coming out and, wow, this is what I discovered. I find, with the brain has a real sense of neuroplasticity with it, in the sense of you can change your shit.
Mm,
The program doesn't have to stay. How it does it, I do not know. That's the magic of it all,
mm,
right? But I've seen people get off the antidepressants with it. I've seen people really who have gone into a funk of depression, move shit. I've seen people grow in confidence that they
mm,
didn't know was the problem. Like often I think what it does is it reveals
mm, mm.
what you can't cognize. And that's the thing too, is I feel it's a cognition. It's not just information. You're not just diagnosed. You're not just told something. You actually have a full experience of not only how it affects you, but how you can move through it and how you can then rewire yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, I mean, we're not like, we do it in a controlled environment. We're not trying to get fucked up.
Yeah.
We're used in a therapeutic sense. And I think that is the respect that I have in relation to that
Mm.
particular meta.
Yeah. Intention is really strong, like important, isn't it? Like with when if in regards to any of the sacred medicine, like plant or fungi medicines, like it's like, what are you wanting out of it? And I don't have any judgment around people wanting to party and or enjoy the outward
Sure.
experiences of being affected by psilocybin.
I mean,
Um,
that can be bonding.
yeah, and I myself, I think like I've had times where the mushrooms have been like, oh no, this is just for you. And like I haven't actually been able to get up and open my eyes and do things, whatnot. It's like, oh, I'm having an inner journey, and it's, you
Yeah.
know, the amount of feels in your body, you're just like, whoa, or whatever, like, whatever happens. And I agree with like what you said as well. It's because it's like, isn't it? It's like the medicine, the healing that's in it is the magic of like, it's like you are involved as a participant in your own healing with the mushrooms. It's like you're working
Yeah.
together. Like when a lot
Mm.
of the time people try to reason their way out of emotional problems such as, anxiety, depression, childhood traumatic experiences, try to use reason and cognition to get your way out of it, and you just keep hitting that brick wall, and it's so frustrating. And then to have an experience with a organism where it's like, hey, like let's find this way together, and like, oh, maybe that's what I didn't know, I seen that, realized that the whole time it was right there, um
Well, it's because it's the mind. Like the mind is the thing, the program holding the fuckery. Whereas these shrooms, what they're doing is they're having a direct consciousness link. And a lot of people don't realize the mind ain't the consciousness. They're two different
mm,
things.
yes, yeah,
So you're getting a direct like link to your truth,
yeah,
who
so
you are without
it's,
programming.
and I just think no, but it is just, we're sort of conditioned again in this world of reason and intellect, and the mind being the way to, you know the
Oh,
highest goal of power and whatnot. And yeah, the control with when you know, decide to have a journey with psilocybin can sometimes be like the letting go is part of the healing as well, I think. That's what I've experienced. But yeah, I feel like we're
yeah, that
always trying to
connection.
we're always trying to reason our way out of emotional things, and it's like that's not going to work. That doesn't work here.
Well, but I think that came in with that whole big pharma, Freud, Jung,
Yes.
trying to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
suddenly, we were told you had to know instead of know. Information became more important than wisdom.
Mm.
And I think when you do this sort of shit, it becomes experience wisdom. It's lived. And so
Yes.
you don't make the same mistake again. Or if you're going to do it, you have a visceral connection of a choice that you didn't have before. You can
Yes, because
have,
the consciousness is expanded there for sure. Yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
Oh, I just got a chill there. And I love that one. The consciousness is expanded. That is it. It's
Yeah.
allowed to come into the body more and say, listen, bitch, are you kidding? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm,
Well, no, that's
that,
it. Yeah. And whether that's doing something, repeating a pattern, physically doing something, or whether that's like for me, it was more things like thoughts that I allowed myself to have that were destructive, that was like, no, we're not going to do that anymore after this now, because we know. And I think too, when I talk to a lot of people who maybe are, in our sort of wisdom space, and
yeah.
they maybe had some experience as a child, as a teenager or early adult with mushrooms or LSD, and they
Oh,
don't definitely they thought, oh no, that's
well,
I
their
don't want to do
uncle
that,
did, or
don't want
someone in
to
the
do that
family.
again, don't want
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
that again. And you know and they maybe having a more open mind because of the research and the again the intellect based stuff is then opening their mind enough for them to go, hang on, maybe this could help me if I did this, approach this in a different way, with a different intention, with who I am now. And people are really surprised the experiences they have, when they're able to frame
I
things
mean,
and
I
have different intention, and the setting inside yourself, like they talk about, set
set
and
and setting.
setting. Yeah. And the set is, what is your mindset? What is your mindset in that moment where, if you're going to go into that journey, that's going to have, effect upon what it's going to be like for you. So um, I find, yeah, setting intention is really positive for people when they go into to maybe experiencing psilocybin again. And
Well, I think too, you don't have to experience it like a, wham bam, Timothy Leary just visited my brain trip these days. You
yeah,
can do something like microdosing. And
yes,
microdosing, I mean, the research coming out on that is amazing. Remaking, reestablishing whatever neural pathways, rebuilding the brain.
yeah.
After whatever. So if you can get your gut right and your brain right, probably want to leave this world though. But
Probably be like, what am I even here for anymore?
right? Maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. But yeah, I mean, Paul Stamets,
Yes.
not local, Paul Stamets legend. He does this thing with turkey tail, which is an edible mushroom, and has
Yeah.
made amazing, leaps and bounds with tumors, etc. But
Yes.
his does with his psilocybin, psychopsilocybin, I get it wrong, whatever the fuck.
I like it.
He mixed what he calls the Stamets stack. He has an entourage effect with this of the psilocybin, the lion's mane mushroom, and something B3 maybe. Oh
But,
fuck, I don't know. Nice. Oh, this is nice. And
no,
anyway, that
yes,
shit.
yeah.
Done.
I've heard of that protocol with Stamets before. I haven't done it. You're doing it, aren't you? Yeah.
I love it. I mean, can I say that and still live
Yeah.
here? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. I really find particularly like this crazy Ides of March, I'm really finding it's giving me that connection that keeps me in consciousness.
Mm.
Doesn't let me be so fooled, if you will, by the
Yeah.
outside world,
That
emotional
you've lost.
reaction.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, much more about what's really like what
Yeah.
is the truth? Not just straight away my mind emotionally reacting,
Yeah. Okay.
but
Yeah.
actually sitting back and just, I mean, whether or not that's the wisdom of age, whatever, I don't know. Supposedly at menopause, I'm losing my mind, da 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 da. And I'm telling you, it's made the journey extremely easy.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Right?
I know.
Anyway, didn't happen here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we're just even talking about turkey tails, and turkey tails grow, quite a common uh, fungi in the northern rivers. So there's many
Right.
occasions they love a dead log. They'll grow quite prolifically. They'll even grow on camphor laurel, and that's sort of they've got a new sort of kind of push towards using um, mushrooms and fungi to remediate forest. So to take down trees that you don't want to be there, like camphor laurels, for example, inoculating them with.
The camphor laurel
Yes,
has a lot of DMT in its makeup. So imagine one of these mushrooms being grown on the camphor laurel that
yeah.
has DMT as part of its makeup.
Wow. Yeah, I
We're
didn't know that they
signing up,
did. I mean,
signing
all
up. I've got a
plants.
lot of
There's DMT in everything. So
yeah, I
yeah.
know people forget that. It's like you can make it naturally, for Christ's sakes. Anyway, well, that's another lecture. So, so in closing, I'm gonna have all the stuff up.
Yep.
Sign up, and if you can't get to this particular foraging event,
Yeah.
sign
Just
up to
just
your
keep. Yeah, just keep an eye out because I'm hoping to do more. I think we're going to be doing a little series of foraging workshops, even in Brunswick Heads at Lilium, where I'm cooking at the moment. They're interested in doing
yeah.
something there, so could be a couple of little pop-ups coming up there where we do a little evening cooking with edible weeds or a bunya nut night or something like that. So yeah, keep an eye on my website and my
You're gonna
Instagram.
wear the bunya nut thing? Are you gonna
Oh
wear the
yeah,
bunya
you
nut?
go to the koala bunya nose. Yeah, 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 for sure. Everybody gets one
No.
as part of their ticket admission.
If you see the
And
Foragers Plate on Insta, you'll understand that in joke.
yeah, so yeah, just keep an eye on the socials, and there'll be things to come up to engage in and get involved with, and there's lots of learning to be done.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited.
Yeah, so great. Look forward to, yeah, coming and hanging out with you on the 30th
Hell
and
yeah.
having a wander and seeing what we
And a
find.
and a cup of tea later where you
And
can,
a cup of tea.
taste the fruits
Never
of your
know.
delight,
There could
the
be
delights of
some fungi around. You never know. I mean, we're in fungi season as well, so we'll just keep our fingers crossed that we maybe come across. Though obviously there won't be the psilocybin vibin, but
no, we don't
there
have
could
cow.
be any number of interesting mushrooms that grow around your place with the rainforest plants
Right?
and whatnot. So
I'm
yeah,
excited about this turkey tail thing and stuff. Like,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. I
Wow, wow,
mean,
wow.
yep, that medicine's out there. Go and get
Yeah,
it,
baby.
girl. Go and get it.